All righty. Well, I want to thank Sages and Sharon and John for allowing me to present on why you should do a sleeve gastrectomy in patients who have well-controlled moderate reflux. And afterwards, hopefully, all the people who I know you do can stand up and not be shamed and stay silent in going ahead and doing sleeve gastrectomies. Here's my disclosure. I am a proctor for the links for magnetic sphincter augmentation. So sleeves, it's always been the outsider. They've always been swimming upstream. It was never accepted early on when it first came out, and people questioned its ability to be a standalone procedure for weight loss surgery. They questioned long-term results, and then they also said, how about comorbidities? What about effects on diabetes? What about effects on hypertension? But the literature came to its defense. And so when you honestly look at the literature, I think we can all agree that sleeve gastrectomy had good excess weight loss, less complications, and all these studies, and I just put 3 on here, but I could have put 20, 30 like Matt did, and it shows that you can do this as a standalone procedure. What about comorbidities? There's people, always naysayers, constantly throwing obstacles on sleeves. Well, this is just one study of many that shows hypertension, diabetes, other comorbidities are all improved. And we can debate on the effect and which one has a better result, but I don't think anyone can really deny that sleeve gastrectomies are effective in improving comorbidities. So finally, the world rejoiced, and it was accepted. The SMBS had a statement that says it is an acceptable bariatric procedure. Now, I am going to date myself, and some of you may not know this, but if you ever watched Schoolhouse Rock, way back then, this was one of my favorite ones when the bill became a law, okay? And I won't sing it for you because then you would all leave the room. But this is what happened. The sleeve gastrectomy became a law. It was accepted. However, and it gained momentum. If you look at it, it is currently the most commonly done weight loss surgery in the United States. And in this study, you see 60% of all bariatric surgeries performed in the United States are sleeve gastrectomies. And the only way that this happens is because it's a good surgery. It has good results, less complications, and it is technically easier. And especially in this patient who has a large hernia with bowel protruding through it, the last thing you want to do is try to run and make a roux limb and a jejunojejunostomy. There's always naysayers out there, though. Okay? And so we don't want to be that person that says it's 99.9% empty. We want to stay positive and say it's 0.1% full. And that's what we're here to do. So don't be that pessimistic person. So kind of reviewing that case that we just heard, 35-year-old, BMI 45. Since the ECG doesn't show hiatal hernia, upper GI does. We all know when you go in, you probably find a small hiatal hernia, but obviously it's not a large one. And there are critics who talk about increase in reflux after sleeve gastrectomy. And it varies depending on the literature that you look at. And many possible causes that people throw out about the decreased LES pressure, alteration of the angle of his, the creation of neofundus. But let's look at the facts. So I'm going to go through a litany of studies here. If you look at Pallavi back in 2014, sleeve gastrectomy, this is a review of the BOLD data. Sleeve gastrectomy showed 41% improvement in GERD score. And worse than GERD was only 4.6%. That's a 95.4% improvement. Franco et al. They did a rodent model, and you can't argue with rodent models. I mean, who's going to argue with rodent models? So what they did was they fed this rodent's high-fat diet. And then they had one arm that was high-fat diet. The other arm was high-fat diet with the sleeve gastrectomy. 12 weeks later, they euthanized the rodents. They harvested intact the trachea and the lungs, and then they had a blinded pathologist look. And what they showed is after sleeve gastrectomy, they had less injury, less aspiration. So all the people who talk about sleeve gastrectomy is causing reflux and aspiration, this right here showed that it did not, and it did not exacerbate extraesophageal reflux effects on the pulmonary system. Hendricks in 2016, de novo GERD was only 3%. And only 4% of patients who had it required a gastric bypass. This study right here was very interesting looking at it. 94% of patients with pre-op GERD were asymptomatic after the surgery, after a sleeve gastrectomy. And greater than 90% of patients with pre-op hiatal hernia were asymptomatic. A meta-analysis in 2021 showed 68% remission of GERD, and they concluded sleeve gastrectomy plus a hiatal hernia repair positively affected weight loss, GERD, resolution, esophagitis. So if this patient has a small hiatal hernia, you repair that, perform a sleeve gastrectomy, and you have positive results. And even the ASMBS statement on it, if you look at line 2, it talks about that the growing body literature showed that maybe the GERD was overblown and not as bad as what we thought. And the last line, there is little evidence beyond expert opinion to support the notion that pre-existing GERD should exclude patients from undergoing sleeve gastrectomy. So no matter what Nicole says, go ahead, it's okay. Give yourself permission. Literature is on your side. Thank you very much.